So he didn't have normal pastoral experience, but eventually, he becomes a bishop, and then finally, eventually, he's given um, the Diocese of Rochester in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And so, how did that go?
Not well. So there are people who think that his appointment to Rochester was Bishop Spellman's revenge. They had had a tiff earlier on over money. But you're right. He had only been in as a associate pastor for about 8 months, very early on when he was still in his 20s. Other than that, he was a university professor on the radio, on the television, what we think of. But he tried to do things too quickly. He really believed in Vatican II, and he wanted to implement them. He wanted to make Rochester a sort of a microcosm for the good things in Vatican II. His problem was that he was not much of a into dialogue. As the director of the propagation of the faith in the United States, he, told people what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they carried it out.
Mm-hmm.
So he did not really collaborate as he said he was going to. He actually founded a committee for the seminary there in the diocese, and it had men and women on it. After the first meeting, he never invited the women back, and after the second meeting, he canceled the committee altogether. He didn't want people telling him what to do.
uh,
And really, his biggest downfall was when he decided to give away an inner city church that had a school attached to it. Very, very few people attended this. It was dying on the vine. And so he thought we needed housing for the poor.
mm-hmm.
Seems like we've not gone very far, have we? At any rate, so he got in touch with the federal government and said, how about if the Diocese of Rochester can gift the United States with um, land on which to build housing for the poor. Well, he forgot to tell the pastor, and the pastor told the people, and you can imagine what it was like. People were pelting his car and screaming at him, and I mean, it was just awful for him. He just felt crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, though the irony is that that church did in fact get closed down a couple of years later, and Sheen used his own money and some fundraising techniques to start a foundation for poor housing there. He actually built one family a house out of his pocket money. Um, and then today there's a Sheen housing foundation in Rochester. It's still
Mm-hmm.
going.
So all this stuff leads him to resign as Bishop of Rochester.
Well, he was over 75, so it
I
was
see.
okay for him to resign. But he was there, less than 3 years, I think.
Mm-hmm. Um, I'd like to close by talking a bit about his relationship with Cardinal Spellman, because it's there that I think we see his Fulton Sheen's humility, you know, in contrast to maybe some of his struggles with vanity and things like that.
Right.
So can you talk about the history of their relationship?
Sure. Well, Spellman was.
Spellman was also a giant titanic figure,
Oh,
in the
these are
American
two big
church.
two big egos in New York City, clashing up against one another. It was Spellman who engineered his appointment to the Society for Propagation of the Faith,
Right.
and they got along quite well for quite a while. Um, and then there were two things. There was a squabble over money. After World War II, the Protestant churches were expending great resources in helping to rebuild Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And Spellman wanted to use the Society for the Propagation of the Faith, wanted to use those funds. And Sheen would not release the funds to him. He said, no, these are for the foreign missions. People gave this for the foreign mission. This is not for the rebuilding of Europe after the war. Um, and Spellman was furious. He's not used to being told no, and
Right.
so he sent Joe Kennedy to talk to him, President Kennedy's father, to talk to him.
Right.
All kinds of priests came by to talk to him. You know, give him the money, give him the money, give him the money. He said,
Right.
no, it's not for that purpose. And so eventually it went to the Holy Father, and the Holy Father sided with Sheen, much to the embarrassment of the Cardinal. And a short while later, Cardinal Spellman wanted the society to pay for powdered milk that it turned out that the federal government was giving to the society to give away to children.
Mm-hmm.
So we, the Catholics, the church didn't pay any money for it. It was given gratis by the federal government. It was surplus food. So once again, Spellman was foiled. And once again, the Holy Father sided with
And didn't he actually lie? Didn't Spellman actually lie about Sheen in that instance?
He did. But fortunately for Sheen, he's not usually a very good keeper of papers, but he was able to find an invoice that said 0.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very, it was infuriating. But I think you said it also touches his humility. He never talked about it. Only people close to him really knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Spellman, when he came up to Rochester for his installation as the bishop there, stayed, gave remarks, and left immediately. Didn't really stay for lunch. It was just the bare bones of what would have to do.
Right.
And yet, when the Cardinal died, it was Spellman. I mean, it was Sheen who. I'm sorry, not died. It was when he had his anniversary. Sheen did all the planning for his anniversary. I mean, why would you think somebody who might not like you
Mm-hmm.
should be in charge of something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was a fraught relationship.
Right.
After that,
and Sheen, not only out of personal humility, was quiet about it, but also because he did out of love for the church. Not wanting to make a public squabble.
Right. Exactly. The church is a big family, and you don't air your dirty linen in public.
Right.
Though that didn't hold for Spellman. Spellman, told a group of seminarians, "Don't you ever be like Bishop Sheen. He's the worst priest. Don't you ever be like him." That's pretty mean.
Yeah.
Pretty low.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's very interesting too, because it's not like this is like a liberal Cardinal versus the conservative, Orthodox Sheen or something. Spellman was this like ultra conservative, figure.
Right.
Super anti-communist, everything else.
Well, I think he thought that because the Protestant churches were so big into rebuilding Europe that we would lose them from the Catholic Church.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting to learn about some of the corruption in the archdiocese too under Spellman. After the fact, like with the film on the waterfront, the story the real story that's based on, it was like, I think I understand it was Spellman's right hand man was very involved in all the corrupt stuff happening down there with the dock workers and the mob and everything. So
well, that's one of the reasons why there was so much anti-Catholicism. When especially when the big cities had machine government run by Catholics largely. I think when the majority see the minority flexing its muscles, it gets a little nervous.